And so December 1st, got on the weight loss journey. Started getting at 5 o'clock in the morning, reading, journaling, getting really intentional. Especially in your world, I'm sure this technology is going to keep evolving, changing, and just getting better, right? And I want to study one person on planet Earth.
Well, a lot of times, right, like with social media, people like see all these other accounts and they compare themselves to, right? They're looking at the Joe Rogans.
We talked about finding your purpose more, finding your mission in life. I would dominate that this year. And I will tell you what will happen when you do that. You don't need a six-pack and all that kind of stuff.
How do they do this? They're all fit. They all go to the gym. They're all reading books. Yet you have 70 people watching. If you had 70 people right now in the room, like that's crazy.
Welcome to Ready, Set, Rise, the ultimate podcast made for martial artists by martial artists, with your hosts, Aaron Hensley and Cameron Smith.
It's a belief. One, it's a belief. They don't think they're going to get there fast enough before they run out of money, because most owners calculate everything on money. And you as a business owner know the stress of that, right? Like, man, I got to buy this equipment. Oh, that's X amount of money. And like, oh, we don't have the money. How do we like? That's an equation we all go through, right? And that, by the way, I've been to the bottom barrel in my industry of that, like where I'm like, I'm 3 months behind on stuff or whatever. And I've been on the opposite side where I had an abundance. Either way, on both of those extremes, you're kind of in that same mindset, because you always feel like, oh man, because you're never going to be completely satisfied. Like you're always going to be like, man, we could have this, we could do this. Because especially in your world, I'm sure this technology is going to keep evolving, changing, and just getting better, right? And so I think part of it is the reason why they kind of get frustrated with that, when they'll have like only 12 people watch this, only 15 people watch this or whatever. They're calculating the ROI immediately. They don't believe they're going to get there before they run out of money. And two, I believe a lot of times is they don't actually fully know their ultimate outcome they really want. I think they're confused about what they really want. And so because if you believe you know where you're going in life, not just with your business, but who you are and everything you're like, you believe so hard into it that you know, like, hey, this is just paying my dues. This is not 10,000 hours type thing, right? So, you know.
Well, and a lot of times, right, like with social media, people like see all these other accounts and they compare themselves, and they're also looking at entertainment accounts, right? They're looking at the Joe Rogans.
Or the dog that you had here the other day, 3 million or whatever it was, you know, like.
And so you look at that, and then you post your thing for the first time ever, and you got 12 views.
Right.
And like we have a client who just recently started, and I was like, yeah, you have 70 people watching. If you had 70 people right now in the room, like that's crazy.
That what you just said, people need to hear that more often. Getting 70 people to show up for a birthday party that are all your friends is almost impossible. Think about it. You're getting married. Getting people to show up is hard. You know, like, I mean, I remember one time someone telling me, it was like, look at a funeral of an old person, look at a funeral of a young person, and see how many people show up. And a lot of times it's based on how active that person is in culture and environment, right? And of course, when you're younger, you're more socially outgoing. And probably when you're older, you're less of that, and you're very routine based. You go to the church every day at a certain time, or you go to this event, whatever. Your circle gets tighter or smaller. And so like in business, think about this. Getting 70 people to show up to a conference that you're putting on is freaking like, even if it was free, would be hard. So if you get them to show up virtually online and they listen to you enough, yeah, I mean, I think the virtual world makes people sometimes be disconnected to what really is going on. Because even 10 people who are diehard fans of yours listen to you, it's pretty powerful. You know?
Yeah, I've had that conversation so many times. There's a filmer I was talking to, and he was like, he's so concerned about posting social media, so concerned about growing his following and whatever. And I'm like, dude, I got like 1,200 followers. I've been in business for like 10 years, 15 years, something like that, with the production company. And I was like, and I make triple what these gurus and these social media people with like 100,000 followers. In fact, they actually asked me, how do I grow my business?
Right.
And I'm like, it's cool to do it. It feels good.
Right.
Right. Like even in the studio, like when we create content that like is a little more funny, we get more comments on it. And I'm like, that's cool. It feels nice, but then it doesn't translate into clients in the door.
Well, last night, we're in the car, and my son is talking to Cameron and Emma about the Costco boys. And I don't know if you know who I'm talking about. You'll have to look it up later. And then this young kid, he has a song and whole following. He's on TikTok and he's done like halftime shows now. And he has a song called like Riz something, I don't know, whatever. And they're joking like, man, we just got to start doing stupid stuff online to get followers. And the reality is like that kid might have his 15 minutes of fame right now. It might convert to some money now. The reality is he's like 9 or 10, 11, 12 years old, whatever he is. Like when he's 45 years old, he's not going to want people to come up to him and remember him from something he did when he was 9 or 10 years old. So hopefully he learns a skill set. So sometimes you can get so much just attention, but you don't know how to convert it. Like we just had this one girl right now everybody knows about that got 15 minutes of fame that now is going to be in some deep trouble, right? Converted to a meme coin. You know what I'm talking about here?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the reality is like she wasn't intelligent enough to understand to put the right people in her life. So she got probably taken advantage of, but she's going to be one holding the bag. Right. And so I think the problem with the digital world is sometimes we compare ourselves to the people who are getting this attention for what can seem to be like nothing of value to the world, but entertainment. And we're being entertained to the point that we're numb. And so as a business owner, when we don't get the same attention, we're actually providing value. I'm frustrated in the sense that I know my purpose and goal in life, and I know my marketplace of who I'm trying to help that have so much value to add to them. Their ego or their lack of wanting really what they say they want, they don't allow themselves to be helped. And I'm hoping that, I tell people like, I'm not trying to lead the horse to water and hope they drink. I'm going to lead the horse to water. I'm going to drown them in it. Because my goal is like, you have to sometimes beat them in the head with so much information. They're just like, they submit. And I think about that even when it comes to like, let's say faith. Okay. And the reason why I talk about that stuff is like, I'm on a journey in my life where I know that I've not done things in my life where I'm not leveraging my life to the man I want to become. Like I know I've made those mistakes. I've let other people influence me to kind of keep me where I needed to be more. And sometimes that lid is myself even, right? And so on my spiritual walk, sometimes I've had to be basically, beaten over the head so much with information, the world kind of telling me like, hey, look, you've got to submit to this in order to get what you really want. Because as a man, you feel like I can handle all this. I got it. Like I can manage all this. And sometimes you just got to, like I said, be overwhelmed. Business owners, we need sometimes to be overwhelmed with the data to finally be like, you know what? I can't do it all this. I can't do it all. Right. And we do compare ourselves out there like, well, that guy looks like he's got it all. This guy looks like he's got it all. They're getting all this attention over here. Looks like they're making all this money. And then kind of find out someone recently that I was following and was a customer of, I get a phone call and he's been indicted federally. And I thought like he had it all covered. And I'm like, oh, I'm comparison. The comparison's the thief of joy, or is that what I think it goes,
Yeah.
right? And so I do think business owners need to understand, like, your mission, if you got 70 people in that room listening to you virtually, that's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Celebrate that,
Yeah, and I think what you're talking about is interesting, right? Because we are always comparing ourselves. Like, when the grass is always greener on the other side, right? And I remember...
Grass is greener where you water it, actually. But, but yes, you're right.
But, like, I remember when I first started doing photo and video and I started my own company, there was this like website of like all these pro photographers, and I was on there for like inspiration, but then I'd get so bummed out because I'm like, I suck. Why am I trying this? And I was good back then, and I got better over the years. But like I was like I had to delete that app, and I don't. It's funny. I meet people and they're like, oh, do you know so? I'm like, I don't know anyone in my industry because I don't follow people. Like I just put my head down. I do my own thing because otherwise, I'll sit here and be like, oh man, like. Their life looks so much better. Right. Like they're doing this. Like how come I can't? So I had to learn how to like kind of remove myself from that, not just on social media, but business. Because so many business owners kind of feel that way, right? Like I feel. Sure. I mean, I know I find myself doing this in a few business owners that I've met along my journey that are like, oh, it seems like everyone else has it figured out except for me. Yep. And I'm like, man, well, I don't have it figured out.
I have that feeling every day. Honestly, I have that feeling every day. I'm in a space that's very niche, okay? So martial arts is still new to America. It hasn't been here that long. And then professional martial arts schools didn't start till the 70s. So like in my lifetime, this is a thing that's new. And so if I think about that in context, it's a new industry, really. And there's people, like I don't know of a single person who's ever owned as many martial arts schools as I have with doing the revenue I have. And there are people out there who do daycare and martial arts. They do after school. I didn't do that. I was martial arts only. and I was 3 times on 6 days. I don't know anyone else has ever done that. That wasn't part of 4 or 5 other people like doing this, as a conglomerate or something like that. I don't know anyone else out there. Doesn't mean there isn't out there, but if they're doing it, I don't know who they are. I've never heard of them. I'm the biggest player out there that's ever done this, and then people don't even know who I am. Okay. And then I meet people like I met somebody a couple weeks ago. Like I didn't know who this guy was, and he's pretty successful in the martial arts space. And I'm in a very niche market. I should know everybody, or they should all know me, one or the other. And I don't know everybody. So that tells you how big and small the world is at the same time. And then I go on social media, and sometimes I'll see someone, like I would meet somebody, and then I see who they're following, and I'm like, that guy has 12 million followers. I never even heard this guy before. Or this guy has 10 million. I'm like, so there's so much out there that we don't even know what's going on. I would challenge a little bit of your, because I'm gonna tell you, I've been through some cycles probably similar, and I would do what you've done, which is like, man, I just can't even look at it anymore, because it's like you spin your wheels. I'm like, that guy, and most of them don't look. You already know social media is not real world, right? Like people are making things look better than they are. I deleted a lot of my stuff online this past year because I told myself I was going to be as authentic. Go read my post I put this morning. Okay, I'm going to be as authentic. Basically today, I journal every day. My prayer today, I believe journaling is prayer on paper. I put it on the public world today, right? And like for accountability for myself, okay? And so I want to be more authentic because I don't want to become what most people are doing with social media, and they try to be too picture perfect and all this kind of stuff. But the thing is like, I would challenge the belief is this, and this is harder to do, this is why it's probably most people wouldn't do this. But actually, I would look at all those things and try to learn the muscle of being receptive of really what's going on. Because I think when you avoid things, you're not really learning the skill that you really want. Because ultimately, think about this. If we have to remove something completely out of our life that we know, we're cognitive that it is out there, we're going to face it at some point. You're going to, look, you got a badass vehicle out there. Come on now. Like Cybertruck is pretty dope. You pull up, you get attention. And someone's going to pull up in their truck and be like, man, that guy's got a cooler truck than me. But then someone's going to pull up in something that you're like, man, I want that, right? So it's never going away, no matter what you do. So instead of avoiding it, learn how to recognize what it's really about. And then, I know you're a person of faith, man, none of this stuff really matters. Like, that's not the last vehicle you're going to own, right? You know that. And so what I've done is, 2.5 years ago, I made a conscious decision. And it sounds super silly what I'm about to tell you, okay? I was depressed during COVID and didn't really realize it. And most of my life, I've struggled with weight my whole life. Okay. The day I was born, I was overweight. I was 10 pounds, 3 ounces and 24 inches. I walked out of my mom, basically. I just literally, that's why karate was my first day one of my life. I'm doing karate because I'm already tall enough to walk around. I'm only 5'8" now, so I don't know what happened. I didn't grow much. But I've struggled with weight my whole life. And of course, these identity barriers we put on ourselves really determine that. And so like big bone and all these things. And I had red hair and super white in a predominantly black area. So I got picked on for a lot of different reasons. And I've always struggled with weight, and I wasn't a great athlete. And I'm going to continue because it's part of my DNA. And so sometimes like my identity is that. And so I've always struggled with that. Well, never really had a problem with alcohol, never really drank because it was not something I was into. But during COVID, I didn't close down my business. We actually grew that year, but I was over delivering to my customers and over delivering to my staff. And that was the first year that I really took up alcohol. And I was somewhat depressed with things in life, didn't really recognize it. And so I abused my body when I'm depressed. I overeat and I started drinking. Put on 80 pounds. That's a lot of weight. Okay. So about 2.5 years ago, I was like, I don't know if I have the ability to get back in shape. You're over 40, things get harder. And I was like, I need to test my mental fortitude. My entire life, I've bit my nails. My entire life. I've never clipped my nails my whole life. I know it sounds silly. This was the week before Thanksgiving. I says, all right, I'm not telling anybody this. This is for Aaron. January 1, I'm going to see, I want to get back in physical shape. I want to get back in spiritual shape. And I want to study one person on planet Earth, not some gurus that I've been studying. I'm going to study me. I want to figure out why I do these things in my life. Because I can't be a better business owner. I can't be a better father. I can't be a better friend until I really understand why I keep doing these same cycles in my life. And so to test if I had the fortitude, I says, this is in my head, going to Thanksgiving week. I said, on December 1st, I'm going to stop biting my nails for the rest of my life. Okay. This is December 21st or December 1st of 2022. Okay. December 1st comes around, didn't bite my nails. Look at them now. Now, I don't know how to clip my nails still, so I get manicures now. Okay, so it's an extra cost, but I've not even thought about it since then. Now, how can I have done something for 40 years of my life and like that, just make a mental decision never to do it again and then stick to it? And so December 1st, got on the weight loss journey, started getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, reading, journaling, getting really intentional. And I went from 264 pounds to 170 pounds within 6 months. Okay, which was actually too light for me. Everything else in my life improved. Everything. But I had to see if I had the mental fortitude to be able to do that. Now, how does that relate to anything else in the world? Is because a lot of times as a business owner, we chase shiny objects. We want success based on the image of what that is, whatever we perceive that to be. And we sacrifice so much. And I sacrificed my family and for a business success, my faith, my body, and then I abused money. I didn't know how to respect money because I wasn't even chasing that. I was chasing some image of what I thought I needed to be because I'm really dealing with a chip on my shoulder from where I came from type thing. That's a me problem, right? And so I think business owners, a lot of times they do these tangent things and eventually they just give up. They get broken and they're confused about who they are. And that's why the comparison of what they see on social media or like, why start a podcast or why start anything like that? Is it trendy? Is it going to go away? Maybe it doesn't exist in 20 years. Who cares? If you ultimately know why you're even doing what you're doing, then everything else is a measurement to get to where you ultimately want, your North Star. And I believe the more you can be in tune with that, the more joy you'll have in your life. Because that's not something we can put a measurement on. And that's something that I wish that maybe as kids in school, we talked about finding your purpose more, finding your mission in life. And then the education system could evolve to actually seeing the individual and be like, you know what, that person's more artistic and that's where their joy is. Or maybe they're a great communicator. Or maybe this person needs to be an engineer because their talents are there, their heart's there, and they have a purpose. They feel fulfilled there. But we don't do that, right? We all these shiny objects that we promote that on social media because it's entertainment. And when you have entertainment, you have eyeballs and attention, and you actually can dumb down the audience. You can manipulate and control them. You can create the narrative that you want. And ultimately, like if you want to control the masses, that's what you would do. You don't want free thinking people. You don't want people to feel like they can control their destiny. You don't want people to feel like they have the power to change their moment. You could change your life today if you wanted to, right? You mentioned to me yesterday about making a commitment with you and your son working out together. Like you had to make a conscious decision to do that. You could have done that a year ago. You could have done it. But sometimes it has to be your decision. If you ever do it for your spouse or for a friend or for any other thing, it's never going to stick. And there's too many times my dad would try to get me to get in better shape when I was a kid and try to motivate me negatively and positively, all different ways. It was for him. I didn't stick to it. And there was a point in time where I'm like, I want this, right? My daughter struggles with the same weight issue. She's 11 years old and I see it. She uses food as a coping mechanism, right? When she's sad or depressed, food is like her go-to. It's comfort, right? And that's a form of abuse. And I know the only way I know how to talk about it, if I feel like I'm shaming her about it. So I'm very cognitive about bringing up attention. I'm not well averse to help her with that because I struggle with it. And so like, I only know how to help her with the way that it was negatively done to me. And I don't want to do that because it didn't work. It just ticked me off. Right. And I don't want to alienate her from me. So I don't know how to handle that. And I know that means that she's unhappy about things in life. And now she's aware of her body for the first time. I see it when she tries on clothes. You know, I'm telling you right now that hurt. I mean, I feel it right now. That hurts my heart, you know? So like, there's one life. So like, do I need to fight this issue now? Or maybe I can just be there for when she's ready to come talk to me about it, you know? And that's what I'm hoping to be, is just to be a better individual, better person every single day. I'm sorry about that. Got me a little emotional with that. But I think that's where business owners struggle, is like, they want the quick return immediately. They want to invest some money, come do a podcast. If they don't have, you know, if they're not Joe Rogan tomorrow, like, you know, it's not going to work. And here's the thing is, why would they even want to do this? Are they doing it because they want to appear to be something maybe they're not even? Maybe some people need to do it because this is a skill they need to learn. Because they're not good at conversating. They're not good in front of people. They get freaked out. But being on a stage, maybe it's practice and that's intentional. Maybe they want to, you know, record what they're doing so they can have it for the future. I think most people have no idea why they're doing it, you know?
Yeah. Especially, when you talk about the content creating side of podcasting, right? That really is true. Like, we get so many people that are brand new to this and they don't They just know, oh, this is trending. And so, like, we specialize with business owners, and I always bring them in. I'm like, look, screw the content.
Yeah.
What's the goal? Like, why are we doing this? Let's use this to meet people, meet interesting people that you can connect with, build real relationships, businesses built on relationships.
Yep.
We'll get good content along the way, but let's figure out the end goal in the first place. If you're trying to do this to be famous, first off, we're not the right place for you because I don't have the background for that.
Right.
But, talking about, your children,
Yeah.
I think, the one thing I like about you is every time we talk, I'm like, I see myself in you so much.
Yeah.
You're just further along than I am on my journey, right? I'm like, oh, that's how I'm thinking currently.
Right.
Right. Or that's where I'm making my mistakes. And it's funny, like I talk to my son and I realize this and then I forget about it. But like when I talk to him about his goals, right, I always say the same things like you're saying right now. It's like, you have to want this.
Right. Yep.
What is your clear vision? What's the end goal? How do we get there? Let's work it. But then when I come to me and my business, I never really actually think that way for myself.
Okay.
And I always kind of beat myself up. And it's like hearing this from you, I'm realizing like I have to, because everything in my life, for me at least, is I'm doing this for them.
Right.
Like I don't want anything. It's.
Okay. So permission to coach you right here?
Yeah, of course.
So here's the thing is, best person to coach you is you, but the future of you. And the reality is because unless you die today, like you're going to mature, you're going to have wisdom, and you're an intentional person. So 20 years from the future, you'll be a smarter, better version. Now, your body might be a little different or whatever like that, right? A little grayer or whatever. But you're the best person. The reality, though, is it's like when you coach your own kid on something, and then I could come to your son and say something to him. He might listen to me different if I have influence in his life, right? If I'm a hockey coach or something like that. And I'm always like, why does that work? It works that way because sometimes you're so close to somebody and you're with them so much, they see so many different sides of you. They see the funny side, the goofy side, the serious side. They see all this. So it's harder sometimes, like when you're trying to coach them on something, right? And so that's why a sports coach can come in and say the same thing. And it's like, oh my goodness. You're like, what? So the best person to coach you is yourself. The reality is sometimes, though, you won't listen to yourself for the same reason. And so a couple things that you're saying right now is, you're going to be on this journey. Like you're not getting rid of yourself. Like you're going to be in your headspace forever. And so a lot of times it's like when you see that, hey, I can do this over here, but I struggle here. One is telling you need someone that you allow in your life to get the best out of you. Going back to when I took Cameron to the gym yesterday, is like he would have not done the weight he would have done by himself. And he knows that, and I made him do more. And that's what a great coach does. A great coach sees your potential, knows what your end goal is going after, and doesn't let you quit on yourself. Because we as humans are very efficient. We'll do the minimum to get the result we need, not to go above and beyond. All right? And that's why we celebrate those people who do that, because we're like, wow, I want to be like that. We all have that ability. Most of us, though, we quit on our goals before we get there, or we quit on the highest potential is because it's freaking hard. And so words do matter. And with your son, you're saying like, hey, you need him to want it. What I've learned with my son is we are wired so differently. When I was his age, I already knew I knew my purpose when I was younger. I was more in tune, but I'm also an outlier. Like I'm not him, he's not me. And so what I've struggled with is like, I want him to be like I was, in the sense that because he has opportunities I would have killed for. Like my son has opportunities no other kid in the industry has. My son specializes in weapons, right? Have you seen some of this video stuff yet? I got to show him. Okay. When you see some of the stuff he does, his grandfather owns the company. There's only 2 in America that make the stuff. There's only 2, and his grandfather owns one of the 2. Okay. And so like he gets the weapons, kind of like with, I guess hockey's probably got expensive toys, right? Like, so how much a hockey stick cost? I don't even know.
Like $400 to $700.
Crazy. All right. How many does your son have?
Well, we always have 2.
Right. So that's $1,000 right there.
Yeah.
My son uses commas, which is like these blades that he does, and he's got 30 pair, and they're $100 a piece. Well, his grandfather owns the company. It still costs money. Like you're not just getting them for free, but like he can go and say, hey, I want the weight a little bit here. Like he can go to the shop where they're made by hand, right? And so he has all this, and he has every great competitor that my son aspires to be like has stayed at his house with him and trained him. Like, I didn't have access to these people, so I've leveraged my success to know all these people to put in his life. So words do matter. I want my son, like you want your son, to like want it. The reality is sometimes they don't know how to articulate to us that. So he might want it, but it's not coming out in the way that you would have shown it off. And so my son does want all these big goals, but I just recognize that he doesn't know how to articulate those. And he doesn't know how to articulate his dreams to me yet. There's a maturity gap there a little bit. And so I want him to be more like me, my thought pattern. But in reality, he's his own person, right? Similarities, because I raised him, but not the same. And so then when it comes to yourself, when you see these gaps in your game, the more real you can be with yourself, and to a very select audience that you trust with those, to hold those near and dear, to hold you accountable. Because if you give them to too many people that want to harm you will use it and leverage it against you, right? And so when you set your business goals, I would really highly suggest that when you write them out, and just like I was talking about in the other room, is like when you write them out and you're consistent every day, and the ones that are sticking are the real ones, not the ones that are just for everybody else. Because I've written down stuff that just sounds cool, and I'm like, after about 4 days, it's not even on the list anymore. And you share that with people. Most of the time, your goals are going to be way too small, because your brain's almost like, as a parent, your job is to protect, and really what we should do is be pushing our kids.
Yeah, I see that in the hockey community.
Right.
Every parent you talk to is going to say the same thing. Well, all these kids end up in beer league. None of them are going to make it.
Right.
Because maybe college, maybe.
They're protecting, right?
Yeah, we're the only family, and we don't really say it out loud to other families because we don't want to seem like pretentious or whatever. But like, we tell our son, you're going to play in the NHL.
Yeah.
He has coaches who have played in the NHL telling him that too. Like, he tells himself that, and like, and we talk about, I talk about this stuff with him all the time. And like, once again, it's funny because like, I'll counsel him, but then I'm doing the opposite in my own life with the business, where I'm like, if you tell yourself you're not making it, you've already not made it.
Belief.
But then here I am like, oh, I can't really reach my goals. Right. Beating myself up with all these negative thoughts. And so it's something I struggle with, and I am aware of that, and I'm working hard, and I've gotten way better at being less negative about myself and believing more about what I can accomplish.
I'll tell you this then. So this is what I've done. I can only teach you what I know, right? So when I took care of my physical health, it affected my mental health. They're very correlated. And I've struggled with weight my whole life. And so, and that's never going away. I know that. So if I don't stay consistent, it's such, not just a physical, but because like when you wear clothes you don't feel good in, right? And so it's a daily struggle for me. I can't take a day off on that. Okay. And I'm 44, so it's only going to get harder, not easier. And so I think that actually is now a blessing. Here's why. My dad's 66 years old, about to be 67. My dad, up until he's probably like 55, was in amazing shape. My dad was an athlete. And then as he aged, because he's never dealt with weight issues, all of a sudden it hits him, and he doesn't know how to cope with it. I've always dealt with it. So guess what? When I get older, I already know how to handle my body. I know my body really well. I know what I can eat, what I can't eat, how much I got to train, what I don't need. I know my body really well because since I was a kid. And I know the emotional damage I've done to myself, beat myself up, compare myself, like even when I was like starting dating girls and, high school age, stuff like that. Like so I know what I don't like about myself. And so if I have to stay ahead of it, when I take care of my physical health, my mental health is better. When those things are aligned really good, I feel somewhat invincible in the sense of my confidence is at a very high. And confidence is the sexiest thing a person can have. Not arrogance, but confidence. So I would say this about you. The more intentional you are about taking care of your body, it will correlate to other things. So I would dominate that this year. And I will tell you what will happen when you do that. You don't need a six-pack and all that kind of stuff. But when you dominate your physical health, you're going to feel better about who you are. Your communication with your staff, with your family, everything will improve. And then I would say this. When you write your goals down, they should scare the hell out of you. They should feel impossible. Man, I'm telling people I'm going to have 10,000 people in a stadium right down the road. I have no idea how I'm going to do that. But did I tell you what's already happened since I moved to Vegas?
Yeah, you were telling me about that.
I've already have an event scheduled with them this year. Like a video was already sent to the owner of the team when I shared the video of my son. Like already, because I've kept saying out loud, and then Cameron and I drove by the place. I'm like, what if? Not in the negative. What if we can? And then I send an email, and I get a response back. Hey, by the way, we're finishing up our book on our calendar next year. Boom, we go get a visit, get a meeting, get a conversation, get a relationship with somebody there immediately. Now, I still have no idea how I'm going to pull off the 10,000 kids, but I also believe this. I know how that will impact the world. And I feel now like I can't wait. Like I'm pumped because how cool is that going to be?
Yeah.
You know, and it's the whole industry will get a lift. Whole industry is going to get a lift when that happens. And no one's going to care who gets credit for it because I don't care. And nobody will care because it's going to be such a powerful movement. And then I'm trying to figure out how we do it every year like that. I want to be a trend that stays forever, you know? So just write them down every day and write out the ones that you're scared to write out. And I'll say this, just dominate one thing in your life. Don't try to do 7 things. To me, the physical, as a guy, we don't articulate this enough to each other. Women talk about their bodies and all that stuff. Men, we don't. And then, you know, we even like dad bod's okay or whatever. And by the way, I'm no perfect specimen. I do know that it's something I've struggled with. I'm probably assuming that we and I are probably very similar in a lot of things. You take care of that, it's something you can control. And once that, everything else ripple effect in a positive. My relationships were better. Everything in life's better. And you're more prepared for the war that business is.
I was thinking about this the other day, right? Actually, yesterday, you guys came in, you know, after your workout, flexing on the camera. And I was thinking about it yesterday.
I was in the tank top yesterday.
Yeah. And I was thinking about it yesterday. I was like, you know, I was never one to go to the gym. I skateboarded my whole life, never really worked out. And I always had that like as almost like a badge of honor. Like I've never been to the gym.
Yeah.
And then a few years ago, I was going to the gym and I started going consistently. And I was thinking about it. I think I had the most growth in my business, or some of the most growth in my business when I was doing that, right? And because there is that correlation. You're doing hard things.
Yep.
You release whatever in your body. And I was thinking about it too, like thinking about the people I know that I look up to, that I've met, that own businesses, that I'm like, man, like how did they do this? They're all fit. They all go to the gym. They're all reading books. I'm like, you know,
there's something to there.
There's something to there. And so like I've made it a personal goal to start working out. I had hernia surgery, so I couldn't do it for 2 months. I still have a little bit of pain over here, so I don't want to push it too hard. But I'm making it my goal to start going to the gym this week on Monday.
Awesome.
Right, I got to pick an actual day.
Sure. I'm gonna check
this
in on
week
you.
isn't on the calendar.
It's on Monday. Things get scheduled, get done. That's right.
Exactly. So I'm going to start going Monday. If I can't make the gym, then I'll just do like push-ups or something to at least be doing it. Right? Because I want to get back, not to be buff, like that's not something I care about, but to do those hard things and have it translate into every other aspect of my life. Because I've seen it do that. And then I kind of let it fall away. And I think too often we're okay with being mediocre. We're okay with giving up.
And it's easier for guys. Like women have a harder time when it comes to their body. And I know it's unfair, but it's the truth. Okay.
Yeah.
I just know that in business, here's the next thing is I'll give you some hacks. Because there's a lot of things I'm not great at. And you tend to be great at things you like, right? Like I've never been a great runner. Running definitely is great for weight loss, but I just don't like it. I'd rather get in a ring and spar somebody than run, right? So for me, getting up early in the morning before everybody gets up and getting on an elliptical machine. One of the first things I did bought here when I got to Vegas, I bought an elliptical machine here. And I do an hour every day, every morning at 5 o'clock. And the reason why is because I don't even try to do it for the weight loss, whatever. I moved my body for an hour. So no matter what happens the rest of the day, and I do this 365, no matter where I'm at. I'm in a hotel, I'm getting up and doing this. I was up to 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm getting up. It's ritualized. Moving your body for an hour. And during that time, I listen to a book. I don't like listening to music. I listen to a book, or I'll put on, if I'm watching a podcast or something like that, and I'm finishing it, and then I'll journal right before, right after. Okay, and I write my goals. That's what I do. Ritualize. Now, I know everybody has these crazy routines they do, but I know that's something I can control every single day. And no matter what happens the rest of the day, if I make it to the gym, don't make it to the gym, at least move my body. And I don't count that as my workout. And I don't like doing cardio mixed with weights or whatever. And so that gets done. And I will tell you, when I was really getting serious about my weight loss, you lose some weight in the very first month. But on month 4, it looked like it was almost overnight. But it was the consistency, compound, right? And that is the thing, is being compound. So that's something you can do every morning, is have something in your house where you can either walk on a treadmill or do an elliptical. And you can do that no matter what fitness level you're at. And you automatically have this energy boost. Like, you see how fast I talk when I do this stuff. Everybody's like, what are you on? Whatever like that. I'm telling you, moving my body, movement creates energy. And then I look at people who are older that are very active compared to people who are older that are, they look 20 years older than they are. And the big secret of life is just don't stop moving, don't stop learning, don't stop moving.
Yeah. So my mom's like, I don't know, maybe 64, and she started walking every day. So she actually started going to Spain to do like the Holy Walk,
Yeah.
the Camino.
Yeah. I know
And she walked, it was 10 miles a day basically for about 30 days straight.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, she ended
That's
up
a lot
doing,
of
I think it was like 350 miles. And then when she came back from it, she was like, she felt so good. And she trained for like a year.
Right, to be able to
doing a little bit more walking every day.
You didn't just start going 10 miles.
Yeah.
Right.
And then she went like back 4 months later to do it again. And then she's like, been keeping up with it.
It's
And
addictive, right? Once you get something started like that. Yeah.
yeah. Have you heard of those walking pads?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Treadmills that fold up.
Yeah.
I actually just got a couple. We're going to
Perfect.
put them in the studio.
Yeah.
They were kind enough to give us a couple, actually.
Very cool.
We just shot
From
for
the
them.
from the trade show.
Yeah. And so that was one thing I was like, let me put these in here so that way, like,
Yeah.
we got some downtime or I got to fix them or I have to do a live. Let me just walk while we're doing the
100%,
live,
yeah.
get those steps in.
I'm going to do my next podcast like that. I was be walking on one.
Yeah. So you've been able to do something that not maybe many able. You've been able to do something that not many people are able to do in your space, right? You've built
for sure.
something huge.
Yep.
Along with that, I'm kind of on a similar mission. Like I want to build something that's bigger than me.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
The biggest question I feel like I have with what I'm trying to achieve is one, becoming a leader to lead a team.
Right.
But like, how do you find the right people? How do you build a team? And then how do you lead that team to follow the mission that you have?
I actually think it's fairly easy. First of all, you are a leader. You don't become a leader, you are, right? And so and I think words, I am learning now how words are so powerful. And I've misused words so much in my life. So, because the words we tell ourselves, there are our truths. And you are your worst critic. You know this. Like your mind is like, you've got the angel, the devil, the heckler, whatever you want to call them, like telling you're not, like all my life I've been told, telling myself, you're not smart enough, you're not rich enough, you're not tall enough, you have, you're overweight, you're not athletic enough. Like I beat myself up more than anybody else, whatever. So like when people say trash about me, they don't even know me. I'm like, bro, I said more worse stuff to myself, so like whatever. So I think one is you are a leader, right? You have a family, you're a leader of your family, leader of yourself. So one, you are a leader. How do you become a better leader? How do you become a better leader is one, be authentic, be a student every day, right? I wake up every day and the question I ask myself is, what do I need to accomplish today to be better today than I was yesterday so I can be prepared to be the man I need to be tomorrow? And you can put it in buckets like, hey, financially or with my spirituality or my fitness, whatever. But like, I don't let a day go by that I don't get a W. I have an intention within my day. And so like Cameron made a comment yesterday with him and his wife talking about how much we did yesterday. And to me, that was a normal day. If most people spend one day with me, they'll be confused about how I do so much in one day. And no one teaches you how to do this. So how am I able to do that? This will go, how do you build a team? You have to be very intentional about who you want to be in this world and who you want to be when you're not in the world. I don't believe in legacy. I think a lot of times, I used to, my beliefs, I think that goes to a whole other thing, is we don't challenge our own belief systems enough. Your beliefs were put in you by your family, typically most of the time, or someone that influenced you. And at some point in your life, you need to challenge them and say, do I still believe this? Is this still what I want to believe? Because it is a choice, right? Like, I cannot prove to you God exists, all right? I can't prove it, but I believe in God. And that's a choice I make. I can't prove you love's real, but I choose to believe in love. And so like you have to challenge those beliefs. So you are a leader. How do you become a better leader? You got to ask yourself, who do you need to become to be the leader you desire to be? And where's your outcome? And legacy is not for when you're no longer here. Your legacy actually is just day to day, how you're impacting the community and the world that you have influence over now. That's your legacy, not your name remembered when you're no longer here. So I'm very intentional about who I want to become right now in present time and who I want to become in the future sense. And who do I want to be when I'm no longer here? Not how I want to be remembered, but if God willing, I meet my maker one day, like who do I want to be standing there? And so I don't read for entertainment. I don't watch television for entertainment. Doesn't mean I don't enjoy life. Like actually I get more joy probably than most, because when you have impact and purpose, you remove purpose from a man, you might as well kill him. And when you ever thought about not being on earth? You ever been having deep, okay? I don't think men talk about this. I think almost every man I've ever met has probably thought that, because that means that at some point in your life, you were not sure about your purpose here. Man, I've been there multiple times in my life. And I think purpose is some of those things that, like, if you don't have purpose in your heart, you don't have a mission here, as a man, we have no value. At least that's what we tell ourselves. And so if you're building something big here with your company, and you are a leader, and you're studying yourself of where your flaws are, and you're not trying just to build up your strengths and build around your flaws. Like, you want to triple down on your strengths, recognize your flaws, and then build around those flaws, because guess what? They're part of who you are. God made you a certain way anyway. And you don't go find a team, you build a culture. Cameron's been with me since he was 9 years old. Everybody's like, where do you find a Cameron? I built him. He had to be, in the right space, mentally, physically, emotionally, to be the person, because there's been a lot of people in my life that didn't stick. And there have more than just Cameron, but Cameron's been willing to, like, hey, like, I'm all in on this approach. It was his choice. You have to build a team based on the culture, based on who you're becoming, and then you have to let the world know. Because what's going to happen is, if you keep it to yourself about what you're trying to build and how you're trying to build it, you'll fall privy to the world of comparison. You'll be scared to tell the world where you're going, because it will sound like you're a crazy man, okay? People will beat you down. You'll let it affect your spirit. You won't keep physically improving your body. You won't spiritually keep improving yourself mentally. You'll actually downsize yourself to people that don't even love and care about you. So when you are working on yourself physically, mentally, emotionally every day, you're telling the world where you're going. You're going to attract your tribe. And then they're going to push you and hold you accountable to be that man you want to be. And so I think you build a team based on letting the world know where you're going and why you're doing it. And then challenge your beliefs, because what's going to happen is, as you tell the world, you're going to catch yourself saying, you know what? It's actually not big enough of a goal. Because one day you won't be scared by it anymore, because you're going to be close to it.
Yeah. I had lunch with one of my clients, and he's been able to build and scale and sell multiple businesses. And that was one of the things I learned from him pretty quickly, because we were talking about, I was like, hey, I was at the time building a different business.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, like, I just want to get to, like, this number. And he was like, what? That's so little.
Right.
And I was like, well, maybe for you,
right,
but like for me, that's like crazy. And then he was like, no, like, seriously, like, okay, let's 10x it.
Yeah.
And now let's work backwards. Like, how do we get there? And then once we did that, I was like, wait.
That seems pretty easy, actually, right?
I can get there.
Yeah.
If we get there with the right, numbers, like, that means we could sell for. And I was like, so it's like a crazy. It is right. Unrealistic, crazy goal for me. That's still possible. Like, I know we can get there. And then I was building that business, and I spent like 8 months, 9 months doing it. I had 2 partnerships I was working on. We were about to launch, right? Started kind of finding the right team. And I sat there one day and I was just like, what am I doing?
Right.
Like, I hate this.
Yep. So there you go. Yeah.
Like, yeah, we'll make money, but like, I hate this.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this every day. There's no joy in it. And that's kind of what led me to then deciding to open up the podcast studio. Was like, okay, well, what can I do? Because I want to build something that's bigger than me. Like, I've been doing video production for 19 years professionally. Yeah, like about 19 years professionally. My own business for like 14 years, but it's all reliant upon me.
Of course.
My clients hire me to film, me to edit. And I've never been able to like let go of that. Some of it's like that pride. And so that's when I was like, okay, I need to find something else that I can build that doesn't really require me so much. And so originally when I decided on this, I was like, you know what? I was more like the money side of things. Like, oh, I don't have to show up at some point. This is going to be awesome.
Right.
But then we started building it, and I started taking the time, seeing who was kind of naturally coming here, and realizing, one, the bang for buck that we can really do for people here.
Sure. Yep.
And like, I'm all about giving value. Like, I love
100%.
giving. And meeting these clients, hearing some of these stories of like, we have a client right now I was texting her earlier today, and she's like, like, thank you so much. Like, you're amazing. I can't believe you do all this stuff for me. And like, having that over and over and over was like, oh,
you're on the right track.
We can really help small businesses.
Yep.
We can really make a difference, and not like this fluff of like social
Right.
media marketing and this stuff. Like, because once again, we say screw the content. Like, we can help you build real relationships that could, like, one good relationship could change everything for your
100%.
business.
You're always one person, one conversation away, one decision away from changing your whole life. Absolutely, I believe that. Yeah.
And that's where my passion for what I'm trying to build now completely changes. Like, okay, like, I love this. I actually want to be here more.
Right.
I want to be more hands-on.
Right, yeah.
You know, and that client actually today was texting me. She's like, man, like, this is going to be your year. And I was
Yeah.
like, no, this isn't my year. This is your year. I win by helping you win. Let's get you results. Let's help you build. I don't care about me. We're going to all work out in the end. Like, I want to build something for you.
Yeah.
Like, how do we help you succeed? How do we get you there? Well, obviously still going after our goals.
Yeah, of course. I actually think you're right on something super positive there. When you're in love with your client and you care about their success almost more than you care about yours, it's inevitable you're going to become. Every time I've chased the dollar because of pressure of somewhere in my life, I've gotten it, but at a cost that wasn't worth it. You know, like when you care about, when you're really in line, you're talking about you built something that could have been a lot of money, but it wasn't what you want to do. You made a pivot. Dude, that's maturity right there. I mean, that's a big moment in your life, because if you would have chased something you didn't really love, you would have damaged yourself and your family and your friends and your clients. Everybody would have been hurt because you would have been doing things with the wrong motivation. I'm telling you, like, that was a mature moment in your life. Whatever touched you at that moment to make that right decision, that was the right decision for sure.
Well, like you were saying, like chasing the money, right? Like, I always thought that I was value driven, like that I was like, oh, I care about my clients. Oh yeah,
Right.
like I'm building relationships. I always thought that way until I started building this.
Right.
Then I realized that the past like 14 years, yes, I'm friends with my
Sure.
clients. They love me. I'm very giving.
You're saying you have another
I'm building
gear now.
relations. But yeah, I'm like, I was always so transactional.
Right.
Because the only time I'm reaching out to them is when I want to get work and get paid. And I was chasing that
I think
paycheck.
That's normal. I think it's normal because you don't know what you don't know. I think that's how we're almost like, that's how we understand business when you're new to things. You don't know anything different, you know,
Yeah.
but you've got to see other things now. And so now you've grown. That's all you've done is grown.
Yeah, and with this one, I'm being more intentional. I was talking to a guy last night actually, because he's been going to a lot of networking events. I was like, look, just build those relationships. It's going to pay off. Like, you're doing stuff that other people aren't doing, and that's what I'm doing here. It's like I've been a lot more intentional about, like, we're not chasing money. Like, obviously we need to make money to
Sure,
stay
yeah, of
afloat,
course, yeah,
but
yeah.
like,
You're playing the long game.
let's just help you.
Yeah.
Like, how do we help you? Like,
Yeah.
how do we, even if you don't even use our studio, come by, I'll sit with you for 3 hours and give you advice on what I think you should be doing. You know, like, let's just build these relationships and help it grow, because and it is self-serving because I know that's going to help us.
Sure.
But like, let's just care more about their success than ours and really try to build those friendships,
Yeah.
not paychecks, but
Right.
friendships.
You're like I said, you're playing the long game. Next week, I'm actually flying to Oklahoma City. Someone who's been very powerful in the martial arts space. His name is Mike Dillard. He created a company in the 70s called Century Martial Arts. They're in Midwest City, Oklahoma. And Mr. Dillard is, I don't know, probably in his 70s right now. He's had a very colorful life. He was an accountant major at University of Oklahoma, and he was on Chuck Norris's fighting team in the 70s. He was a very great fighter. And no one was making martial arts uniforms in America. Everything was imported. And so what he did while he was, I guess, in college, he went to, I guess, China or somewhere for months and learned how the factory system was working there, and basically started importing himself and created his brand he would go to tournaments, didn't have a lot of money. He'd sleep in his car. And if he won the tournament, he had enough money to get a hotel room. But he would tell me these stories. He would grab people's gis when he's fighting them and rip their gis, so they have to come buy his gi from him afterwards, right? Now, that company does close to $100 million a year now, and he's the sole owner. Not a public company, private company, still him. And he just transferred the company to his son, Mikey, this past year. And I'm flying next week to go visit the center. I've been there before. I've stayed at Mr. Dillard's house before. I accidentally did something great for him 20 years ago, and we've had a great relationship, and he's been close to my father. They went to Russia when it was Soviet Union to help legalize martial arts when it was illegal there. It's a little scary trip. I was in like 88, 89. And so I'm going next week to sit with the executive team of this company with no intention of anything other than just relationship building, because, new CEO of the company, I've grown up with it alongside Mikey, but I just want to be better aligned with him because he's an influential person in the martial arts space. I'm not going anywhere. I'm young. He's young. He's in his 30s running this company now. And his father's been very influential. His father, I stayed at his house one time, and he drove me around some buildings in Oklahoma. And he's like, "Hey, see that building? I own that." And he leveraged his profits to buy, millions upon millions of dollars in real estate. And he was the first person to like, okay, well, you figured out how to do this. I can figure it. Like, he inspired me to be successful beyond just being successful good at my job, right? And so relationships are everything. And there might be nothing that comes out of meeting with them next week other than just, better. Because I told him, I was like, I don't want to do a Zoom or a phone call. I want to come. Hey, can I fly to you and just hang out with you? Right? And so Cameron's going to meet me out there, and we're just going to spend a day with the executive team and go tour the facilities, just to really relationship building. And I think most business owners, they're playing such a game in their mind of like, if it doesn't happen today or it doesn't happen tomorrow, like they don't have the patience for it.
Yeah, it's like those people that show up to those networking events,
right?
And before you even say hi, they're like, "Here's my business card."
Yeah.
You're like, dude, I don't even know.
I don't have business cards, by the way.
Yeah,
I don't have that. Like, you can have my number. You can go to my Instagram or Facebook or whatever. Like, business cards are like, to me, like if somebody gives you 20 business cards, then what do you do with them?
Yeah.
They're just in your glove compartment in your car or something like that.
Eventually they get thrown away. Yeah. I found like this giant stack when I used to go to so many networking events. And I was like, I don't think I've ever reached out to these people.
Yeah.
The thing I hate about networking right now, and I've quit giving like my business card.
Right.
I have a digital one that
Sure.
like tap or whatever.
Yeah.
But I really hate when people that you meet at this event, you barely spoke to them. All of a sudden you're on their email list.
Yeah.
And
They're
you're getting
pitching
these, and you're getting these automated emails. I'm like, first off, you never even followed up with me. We
Right.
never met up again. And now I'm on your email list. You're just spamming me and
Yep.
trying to sell me crap. Like, nobody wants to be sold to, right?
Correct. Well, we like being sold, but we don't want to be. We want it on our terms. That's really what it is. We want it on our terms.
Yeah.
Right?
We don't. Well, we also don't want to just necessarily feel like this is transactional.
Over the head. Right.
Like,
it's just you're getting banged over the head over the time. Yeah.
Exactly.
100%, yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like I wasn't like super transactional, but I was more transactional than I am now.
Right.
And that's kind of my goal is like build relationships. Like we just had this marketing girl in here and she was like, well, what if because we have a podcast called like The Truth About Marketing that I literally just used to meet other marketers
Right.
and see if we like them so we can send them clients if we think they're
Sure.
a good fit for clients or, potentially get work from them. And, she was funny because she was like, well, what if I don't like it? I was like, I don't care if we post this at all.
Right.
I was like, in fact, we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. Like, this is for you.
Right.
And then, we gave her a bunch of edits and all this stuff. She had a good time. And then she was like, oh, my gosh, this is amazing. I want to shoot my stuff here, right? And
right. So that's exactly what it worked. It worked. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I told her, that's cool. Like, even if you don't use us, like, you go somewhere else, you should be doing X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Right? And so that's kind of my goal is being a little more intentional about building relationships, caring about our clients. Which is like kind of catch-22 because some of our clients text super late or whatever, and you're like, oh man.
Yeah, I think 100% in the world we live in now, like with someone like you who's doing, you are the give ass type person for sure. And from my experience with you so far, it's like you're very approachable, you're very easy to communicate with, you make things easy on us, which is exactly how it should be, right? But most businesses are not operated that way, so it's refreshing to see it that way. And I do believe that it does come back and rewards you. I think the challenge a lot of times is when you give that kind of access, it is sometimes to pull back at some point in the future, because if you have scale big enough, and so when that happened to me, you eventually have people that you're able to employ they're not protecting people from you in a sense. They're actually growing you into the next level. And so, but there is that sloppy spot in the middle there where it's like a growing pain. And but it's also beautiful because it means that the company's growing, things are more successful. Right. So, I think also too, I had, someone who's in a small mastermind group with Tony Robbins, right? He does these 10-person type things. And was able to ask that person some questions. And this one, I felt was very valuable for me because it really I like things when it reinforces things in my life that I know to be true, but sometimes you have to hear it in a different perspective to be true. And so the thing about this is I would tell my staff, when you're trying to go network with somebody, the big boss at the top, whoever we're trying to get to, the harder it is to get to that person, the easier that person is going to say yes. because they put all those people in front of them to protect them from themselves. The easier it is to get to that person, the more likely they're going to say no because they got very good discipline, right? And so this person was talking to me and I asked a question, and he says, Tony Robbins was talking to me. He's like, God did not put you on earth to say no to people. He put you on earth to say yes to everything in front of you. It's up to you to become the person of abundance enough to follow through with it. And so, because I hear business all the time, like, I can't wait till I have someone where I can say no to people or I can do this or whatever. And then I was like, that sounds good. But in my heart, you could be a stranger from I don't care where and you needed help. I want to be the person that I can say yes. Like if you need money, all these fires happen right now. Man, if I could write a check, I would love to be that guy. If I had enough homes or hotels, people, I would want to be that guy. I want to have enough abundance because I've done the right things on this side of earth, that when opportunity comes to me and someone needs something, or they need education, or they need a handout because they're in a time of need, or they need a kick in the butt, whatever it is, I want to be a person that says yes. But the only reason I have to say no is because I actually don't have the abundance or the skill set to help them. Right? That's my goal in life, is be the person that can say yes to all those opportunities.
Yeah. I heard someone say recently, it might have been you. I can't remember if it was one of the first times you were here, or if it was like somebody else on social media that was talking about like money. Like a lot of times people are like, oh, I want to make X amount of money.
Right.
And I don't know if it was you. Let me know if it was. But they said basically like, my goal is I want to write a check to a charity for X amount of dollars.
Right.
Like that's the goal. Like I want to be able to give away $1 million this year and not even notice it. And like to me, that was like, that is like a
So, well, that's the way I look at money. It's like I tell people too. It's like I want to exhaust my resources before I go to the grave. Right? Like I don't want to leave money in the bank when I go to my grave. And somebody commented on this on social media the other day too. And because I say I don't want to give it to my kids. I think you can burden people when you give money. What I want to do is I want to give my kids the skills so they can make their own, right? So my goal is like, I want to give away my money, and not just to like one charity. What I mean by give it away is like, I want to put my money in places where it can, whatever my heart, if there's a charity I want to help, I wanted to help them not one time. I want to help them forever. My experiences in life, my education in life, I want to give that away. Why would I learn how to do something? To keep it for me. By the way, when you learn new things, do you know you become really excited as a person? If you learn something new, like your son's doing hockey. If you learn something new about hockey, he can't wait to come tell you about it or show you, right? When you learn something new, I just started learning how to cook for the first time in my life, actually, okay? And I started with something that I like to eat, which is steak. And I got my first chef knife, like I didn't realize how expensive those things were. I watched a lot of educational stuff on YouTube about cooking, and I'm enjoying the process. And I'm understanding for the first time in my life what goes into making food and the process, the timing, and the love that has to go into that. And so I've been able, when people come over, make steak for them and stuff like that. And now I'm like venturing out to learning how to do other things. And there's definitely a skill there, and I'm not good at it yet, for sure. But guess what? I can't, every time I'm like, hey, you like steak? Can I make you a steak? Like I want to make it for them because I've got this process I'm going through and learning how to do it. And the pan matters, all this stuff. I'm learning. And when you learn, you're like a kid. You want to share with everybody. And so the thing is, it's like, why would I learn the things in life and just hoard it for myself? Why would I not give that away? So my love in my heart, I want to give that away. And everybody thinks about love with like your spouse or whatever, or your kids. But man, you can love the whole world if you want to. Like, I want to be an abundant man that God put on here to do great, amazing, beautiful things. And my vehicle, my ministry is martial arts right now, right? And the business of teaching people how to continue to do that. And then I want to financially become successful enough that the other things in my life that are good and strong in my life that I care about, that I can support forever, that live in forever, give my kids the skills that I've learned, give my friends those skills I've learned, and create experiences that are remarkable. So if I was reading the book of my life, that I would be educated, entertained, on the edge of my seat the whole time. Like that's the life I'm going after. And I really believe that ultimately most people that I've experienced in life, I've been around a lot of people being in the space of martial arts, we have all these big dreams when we're young. And like, whether it's you go to college, don't, whatever, you have all these big dreams. You go after them, you get smacked in the world by life, right? You have something happen. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you wake up, it's 20 years later, you got the family, you got the kids, everything looks okay, you got the boat, whatever you got the vacation house, whatever it is. And by most standards, you're successful. But most people are really miserable in life because those dreams they had, they just shut them off. And for whatever way I've gone about this, I continue every day to dream. What if? What if?
Yeah, the one thing I keep hearing you say over and over every time you're here is like, well, somebody learned that. Why not me?
Yeah.
Like, why not me? And I've been thinking about that too, actually. Like I said, that's why I want to have this conversation because there's so much I've been like just learning from you. And that's why, I try not to work Saturdays or Sundays, but
you're
there's
here on
so
a Sunday
much,
right now.
But there's so much value when you guys speak in that room that I'm like, I want to be there. And it's like, yeah, why not me? Somebody else has done this. Like, why not me? And
well, why not you?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
And think about this. Like we live in a city right now where most of the world's largest hotels are on one street. Okay. And you've probably been to all of them, right? I'm sure. You've worked in a lot of them, I'm sure. Go pick any one of them. All right. Do you have a favorite on the strip?
Not really.
Okay. Let's just pick one. You go sit in it. You go look around. Okay. Look around. $1 billion to build one of these things nowadays or whatever crazy amount of money it costs. Well, someone figured out how to raise the money to build that thing. Someone had the visual plan. Even if they weren't the architect, they had the visual plan to figure this out. Then there's not just the hotel part of it. Then there's the casino part. Then there's all these restaurants. And there's all these shops. There's all these stores. So many employees, right? Like unreal. Then there's obviously all the ancillary businesses that get created by building that business. Somebody had that as a dream and turned it into a reality. So why not us?
Yeah.
Because they're not any bigger, better, stronger. Even if they were born in a better position, maybe they're born into a wealthier family. Okay. Because a lot of wealth after so many generations doesn't exist anymore. And so I'm always like, that's why I love going to old places in the world, right? Like I taught martial arts in Jericho, like oldest city on planet Earth. And like you're looking around, and of course, there's not a lot of fancy stuff there at all. But like, man, how many people have walked? I did the same walk Jesus walked through the mountains there. Like how many people have done the same journey? We went to where Jesus was baptized. Okay, what am I thinking of right now? I'm going brain dead. Jordan River. Okay, and like it's nothing what I thought it was going to be. It's a lot smaller. The part that we went and visited is like I thought. In your mind, you think these things are grand and big, and I'm like, okay. Well, he walked on earth. He was a man at this point, and this is where all this stuff happened. And I thought I was going to, and I was at his birthplace and went all this, and I thought I was going to have this emotional response being a person of faith, right? And the reality is like, it actually just made things feel more real, because now I'm seeing it instead of being, it's like the preview for the movie until you see the movie, like you have this thought, now it's real. I'm like, okay, like the story makes more sense now. I have context now. I have context and contrast here. And then I'm like, well, since that time, all these things have happened. The world's expanded. Businesses have come and gone. Generations have come and gone. Industries have gone away, started, whatever. Like, this is all man being creative and using what was put in us. Now we're going to go to Mars maybe. Like, what? We're building robots that can be like whatever. Like, these are all thoughts. And not so long ago, because if you really think about it, like, the time on earth when Jesus was walking wasn't really that long ago in context of the world.
Yeah.
All that time, all this has happened. So why can't I figure out how to run a successful business? Like that really feels like such a, now when I think about it, I'm like, even if I created $1 billion company, that's really small in comparison to all these things that have happened. So why not us?
Yeah, no, I was talking to my wife about that the other day about our goals. We're kind of like revisiting our goals. And, we recently went and walked through these houses and that we want to get. Like, this is like the type of house we want.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, we can achieve this. And we were talking about, I was like, and I told her, I was like, we just have to be more specific about our goals.
That's key.
And I was like, so like, I was talking to my son about it too. I was like, you're probably not going to be living with us anymore when we live here. Because I was
but
like,
you can come visit.
I was like,
visit.
in 5 years from now, like I'm going to be living in a house like this.
Yeah.
And maybe one of these houses, or maybe somewhere better, but we're going to be living in a place like this. And I remember I was with, I can't remember who, but we were in some neighborhood or whatever, and somebody was like, man, like who lives in these types of neighborhoods? And it's like, well, people do.
Right.
So why not me?
Why not you?
Like,
Yeah.
why can't I live there? I can.
Right.
I just have to get there. And then like what you're saying about the goals and the numbers, I was thinking about like, because, my goal is to get to 10 million revenue.
Okay.
Right. And then sell. And that number, like, to me, is such a crazy number.
Sure.
But it's so small.
Right.
When you look at so many
There's
other
people
businesses.
that are doing that a day in their business
Exactly.
or whatever. Yeah, of
And
course.
it's like, why not me? Why can't I do that? I can do that.
Yeah.
And the numbers aren't that crazy to get there. I mean, it's going to be hard. It's going to take a lot of work and
that's what makes it
sacrifice.
That's what makes it exciting that it's hard. Because it's like when I look at martial arts, black belt, everybody thinks black belt's the last belt. And actually, martial arts is the first belt. Right? Like, I don't know if you have martial arts experience or not, but a lot of times people think black belt is the belt. It's actually the first belt in martial arts. We created all these other belts to show you where you are in the process because Americans need to know where we stand. So a lot of people quit at black belt when black belt is the first belt. So you don't even start your education until after then, right? So you have to know what your measurement is. And I think in business, $1 million a year is your first measurement of like, hey, we're a real business now. But let's just say you achieve that $10 million. And like I said, now, like, even though it sounds hard because based on what you've done in your life, there's some people doing that probably in a minute in some businesses, right? And so in context and contrast of the world and what's all happened, even though that's a scary goal for you, in reality is it's not that big. But the hardship of you getting to there, the cool thing about that is you're going to learn so much about yourself. And what if you don't do it? Okay, is it going to crush you and kill you? What you'll do is going after something big like that, you'll find out, is it really what you want? Is it really who you want to become? And the growth is going to happen. And by the way, when you hit it, because when you're intentional about it, you will. I don't believe in a world where, look, there's so many bad things happen in this world that does challenge sometimes my faith. When a plane crashes or some crazy stuff happens and there's good people that get harmed or when people get scammed by people, like, which has happened to me recently, like I got taken for some money and like fell for the wrong people. When things happen to good people, it does challenge my faith. I'm like, why does it happen to people that are good, right? Why does that happen? And the reality is because it's like, to me, I'm small thinking. I'm not thinking about like, what am I learning from this? And for me, it's motivated me what not to be. So I believe when you're intentional and you go after it, you're going to find out, is it really the path that you were intended for in life? And if it is, it's going to happen. And it'll probably happen quicker than you think because that's happened for me. And let's talk about the house for a second. When you actually move into that house, I'm going to tell you what happened for me. And I'm not really big, like I have dream car, dream house, whatever like that. But like, to be honest, like it's not something so defining in my life that I have to have it. But I like certain things wherever I live. There's certain things I have to feel, because my life's chaotic outside of my house. I need kind of a peace in my home. But I bought a dream home for my family, sold it 2 years later, because I don't attach to it to a point. And what happens is for me, because every time I've been in one of these situations, I'm like, I can't believe I was able to buy this. You get there and you recognize, okay, if I achieve this, I can do that. And every time I kind of reach what I think is my potential, you just recognize, you know what? No, I got a lot more in me. And that's actually pretty cool because it makes you feel like you're never going to achieve what your potential is. And that's actually, to me, makes me feel young and hungry, because I'm like, man, I figured out how to do that. It didn't define me. I didn't feel like, oh, that's it. It actually just inspired me like, oh, I can do this again. And one more thing to that, going back to leading your team. When you help your team start getting those things.
Yeah.
Oh, that's powerful, man.
Well, like for me, like being able to travel for work was so cool, like with the production stuff. But what was even cooler was being able to bring my team to New York, and they've never been to New York, and they're getting paid to be there.
Right.
They're getting paid to go eat. They're getting paid to go do all this stuff, and seeing their eyes light up.
Right.
Like that really was. And then going back to what you were just talking about, right? Like progression. Like progression is so important, and having that purpose, right? Like for me, like I know in like 5 years, in 3 to 5 years, we're going to be living in that house. But that's just the next step. Then I know what I want. Like, and it's not that house. The house isn't be cool, but like I want my land. I want to be hidden somewhere.
Yeah.
I want to just be like, not without purpose, because I'm always gonna work.
Sure.
Like even if I can sell for what I want to sell for, I'm gonna go.
The next thing.
The next step for me is to then start a charity, helping people build and scale businesses that don't believe they can.
All right.
Right. Like that's what I want to do. The rest of my life is just help. So I want to sell so I can then go do that. Right.
Permission to ask you a question about that.
Yeah.
Why do you feel like that's who you are? Like, why do you want to help? What is it about you that feels like that's what you have to do?
I'm not sure like why.
Yeah.
It's just it's my purpose. I just love to give. I love I love seeing other people succeed and watching them achieve the things that they don't think they can.
Yeah.
You know, like to me, like I love to sit down, you know, like you're gracious enough to sit here with me and speak with me. And for me, it's like, you know, I have these people that are wanting to start that don't think they can. And I'm like talking with them. I'm like, dude, you can do this. Like you look at me as something high and I'm nowhere.
Right.
Right. And I know that you can do this. Like, you know, because like, I mean, I have that self-hatred. Like, I feel like I can't achieve things. And I know other people feel that way. And I want to help them get past that.
I told you my whole life I felt like I'm not tall enough, strong enough, good looking enough, rich enough, you know. I love helping people because honestly, it's the only time I feel I have value on earth. You know, it's all, like it's hit me right now. It's like it's the only time I feel like I have a purpose. And if I don't help people, I don't know why I'm here. You know, and I have to do it. I have to, you know.
Yeah.
So, otherwise, I will lose who I am.
And I feel that 100% right because, like I was saying earlier, like I don't have my own dreams.
Yeah.
I don't have my own goals.
Yeah.
My dream is to help my kids achieve theirs, help my wife get the houses she wants, the stuff that she wants, because I have to feel that value too. Like, and I know that by helping people, that is when I feel like, oh, I am worth something.
Yeah.
Look, I did something. And it's not achieving money. It's not, you know, like that stuff doesn't matter to me. Yeah, I've always struggled with self-worth. Like I don't, you know, that's part of why I'm a creative. I heard a quote once on like TikTok or whatever, and it was talking about like entrepreneurs. And there's two types. There's those ones that knew they were destined for greatness and they know they're amazing.
Right.
And then there's the ones that they build something to prove they're worth something.
Yeah.
And that's
me.
And that's me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and I think that's why I resonate well with you too, because like I said, I see a lot of myself in you.
That's why I think martial arts has been so good for me, is because it made me feel like that superhero that I always wanted to be, that I didn't have the ability to be. And the thing about martial arts is like I didn't have to be performance-based right off the bat. Like football, I played a little bit of football, but like I wasn't, if you're not good quick enough nowadays, like you're not there. Martial arts is like I could just work on something on my own long enough, and I could use my mind, my creative ability, which is my superhero power a little bit, to be stubborn enough to get good at it long enough. And I could understand it at a depth that most people couldn't. They physically could get there faster than me, but I could understand it with more depth, and I would outlast them. So a lot of people are no longer even in the industry anymore, and then I'm still here. And so I was able to achieve things they never achieved. I was able to beat them in competition, even though they were a better athlete than me, because I could train smarter, better, longer. And I was willing to understand, you know, you're talking about playing the long game in your business. I was able to play that game when it came to like what sacrifice I have to do to get to the level I need to get to, because I knew my weaknesses and I knew how to like almost, you know, make an architecture around that. And so martial arts has been such a good positive place for me because it's therapeutic in the sense that I can use my strengths, my creative ability, my, you know, deprecating self a lot of times, like beating myself up, but I could punish myself in a positive way. And every time I've stepped away from being consistent with that, man, I just lost a little bit of that confidence for sure. And then on two is like I said, if I don't pour into people, if I don't do this, I don't know why God would have put me on earth. Like I've known that since I was a kid. And, you know, the vehicle I have is martial arts. You know, maybe it's too small of a niche to really to fill my purpose. I don't know. I know that I feel like I'm just waking up because I used to be too scared to talk to strangers. I was a black belt. Could kick your ass if I needed to, but I'd be scared to talk to you. Come on now. And what's funny is like one of the things I coach people on that own martial arts businesses, they're too scared to pick up the phone and call a customer, but they're going to teach you how to protect themselves against somebody trying to stab you. You know, like you're scared of a phone because they're scared of not being liked, of rejection. That's all of us, right? And so like you have to own what you're scared of to overcome it. And so the thing about martial arts is I was a good martial artist, maybe great at times, but I know like where my real like secret, God-given ability and talent and vision and purpose, all those things, the martial arts part is the vehicle, the messaging is all it is. That's really what it is. And so I used to be so scared to talk to people because I was scared to tell people, I was scared to talk about things. And I was like, why? Judgment. I'm worried about someone saying, you're an idiot, you're stupid, I can't believe that. You believe in God, why? Like whatever. And I'm not saying that goes away. I still struggle with them, because people find out, oh, that's a leverage point. We can hurt you with that. Oh, we can leverage, boom. I'm like, you know what? Who cares? And so I said, I've got to practice every day, just like I have to do the gym every day or some kind of fitness every day. So I have to practice talking to people every day. And so now, if you ever get to go out with me, hang out with me, and Cameron and them will pick on me, I have to, it's not that I'm going to turn on a character mode. I have to just actually lean into this skill that I've had to acquire and keep it sharp. So I conversate with people all the time. And I love learning, and I might never see these people again, but I want to know their story. I want to learn from them. There's something of value they're going to give me, I'm going to give them. And that's the beauty of life, because there's uniqueness in that. And sometimes it's, great for the moment. Sometimes it's a relationship that continues on. And if I practice that skill every day, it keeps me in the position of, I'm actually feeling my purpose. Because sometimes we're making this conversation right now. You're here on a Sunday because of something you heard from me and saying there, you're like, hey, I need to know him more. And like, but this is one-on-one. What if I was able to do that every day, multiple times a day, multiply by 10, 20, 100,000, right? Whatever it is, the bigger and the more I can do that is, I know my purpose. And if it motivates you to do something positive, like there's some people I know for a fact in my industry that just want to beat me or say whatever, just like a competitor. And that used to bother me because I'm like, man, I want to love everybody, serve everybody type thing. But if that's the trigger, right? If that's the motivator that you have to get fired up for, and it makes you actually do the thing, I'm actually okay with that now. Because sometimes you do need, everybody's wired differently. A fighter going into the ring sometimes has to hate the other person, but then after the fight's over, they're hugging. Okay, if that was the motivator you needed. And I had to overcome my anxiety about talking to strangers, being judged for saying the crazy goals that I want to go after, all these things. Once that kind of, I faced the demons of that, I love doing all the things that I told myself, because I would tell people I'm an introvert. I am, but I misunderstood what that meant. I thought it meant I'm shy, right? And a lot of it was my upbringing. Kids are to be seen and not heard type thing, right? Like, you know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. And so I got to listen to a lot of great conversations when I was younger, because I definitely followed that rule. But when I learned about all these labels I'm putting on myself, I'm actually just fulfilling the promise of what I'm telling people, right? So I have to really be cognizant of these words I'm using. And all I know about my personality is like the introvert part of me is I love people. It's not that I don't love people, because I've heard people that teach martial arts say, I don't like people. Dude, you teach martial arts, you're with, why you tell people this? I love people. What I learned is I need time to recharge, to be quiet, to be in my head. That's why my house cannot be chaotic, because my world is chaotic all the time. When I mean by chaotic, it's like it's never repeat. There's always stuff going on. There's things moving fast. When I get home, I need peace. And a lot of times, I remember multiple people would be in my house and they'd be like, "You're really quiet at home. Why?" I'm like, it's like, it's not that you go off. It's like recharge. It's like your battery's recharging, And if I don't have that space, then what happens is if I'm always like chaotic at home, chaotic in the world, chaos everywhere, my mind never rests. Yeah. And then I don't think good, And
that's how it is for me too. Like sometimes my wife will come home and she'll be like, "What's wrong?"
Right.
I'm like, nothing's wrong.
No, I'm
like, yeah, I'm just recharging.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll do it in the car before I go in, so I can be more like, hey, on for the kids and for the wife. But that's one thing I actually love about hockey. Like oftentimes my wife will be like, "Dude, you just worked 14 hours. Like, I'll take him to practice." I'm like, "No, let me take him."
That's your recharge a little bit
because I get to recharge there, socialize a little bit, which I don't really socialize, so it's kind of nice to just not talk about work or whatever. But like watching my son on the ice, like I love just being there, watching him. I get to like shut down, see his focus, watch him improve, see the things that he's accomplishing, because he actually pushes me. Like watching him, like he's grown so fast in that sport that like when I told some coaches how little he's actually been practicing and been in that position, they're like blown away. Like, he shouldn't be this good. Like, this is crazy. He's already amazing, but the fact that, now it's going on like, I guess, like, what, 2.5 years he's been a goalie, and he plays at the highest level. Kids his age don't really like get recruited, and he's not necessarily getting recruited, but every tournament we go to lately, he gets asked to join something, to join a team, to join a tournament. He actually had one coach come up to him, and this game was unbelievable. I actually think about it all the time, and I kind of almost like live through it sometimes. I'm like, okay, if he could do that, I can do this.
100%.
There's this game. He's 11 playing against these 15-year-olds. The team he was on was a B level, and he was playing against like a AA team, basically. So 4 to 5 year difference plus age group. And his team was, 14, 15-year-olds, but they just weren't on the same level. And he played this insane game. Like, saw 109 shots, 5 went in, and the 3 of them that went in were in the last 2 minutes when he couldn't even stand up anymore. Right? Like, it was just
they took 109 shots at him.
109
it seems like
shots.
A lot. I don't know much about
an
hockey.
average game is like 20.
I was about
30.
to say that seems like a lot because they're like hockey, a low scoring game all the time. Yeah. Holy wow!
And the fact that only 5 went in,
that's crazy.
3 of them in the last 2 minutes.
5%. Yeah, whatever. That's crazy.
And then the 2 that they got on him before too, like, they didn't beat him. Like, it was like the 4th rebound. His team just,
that's crazy.
He played this insane game. And of course, it's the only game I didn't have my GoPro to film at all, and I didn't film it. I didn't have my phone either.
Right.
But the coach came up to him afterwards and was like, "I've waited my whole life to play a hockey phenom. Like, thank you for playing me." And like watching him, like that recharges me. It inspires me.
Yeah.
And so like I try to be at every practice, every private lesson.
Yeah.
Even when it's his mom's week to take him, I'm there too in the morning. I'm like, that's my recharge. Like that's like, if we're missing practice, like, I feel out of whack.
You're right.
Because that's where I get to go just, and I don't think about anything, or I think about business, and I get to like, I watch him.
But it's your regrouping, recharging. Yeah, that's good. And good being aware of it, though. Like, that's the key is I think self-awareness is so hard sometimes.
Yeah.
And we don't know why we do things. And I think you being aware of that will serve you in the future as well, too. That's kind of key.
Yeah, and part of my goal with this podcast, right? I've been thinking, we have all this stuff, right?
Yeah, of course.
That I'm like,
by the way, this place is freaking awesome.
Thank you.
Honestly, like, man, Cameron's visiting here right now, and we were talking on the car over here, like, we just want to do more stuff here, and you got a great setup. This is awesome. It's beautiful here.
I appreciate it. Well, you were talking earlier about, like, feeling like you're not going to film that, like, almost, and scared to open your mouth. Like,
right.
That's something I'm working on fixing now, about like going to more networking things, opening our mouth about our studio, because every day I walk in here, I just see all the flaws, and I'm like, we're not good.
Well, you're always going to see that, by the way. You're always going to see that. It's not going away.
Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Even though, like, deep down I do know, like, okay, like, we do have something, and I had a guy who's been to over 50-something studios across the entire U.S., and he's like, no place has what you have here.
Right.
And we just had, that dog in here, and they've been to a ton of places in LA, like, right, which to me is like the mecca of like that type of stuff. And he's like, dude, I've never seen a place with like this good of lighting, that. And we had this company from Dubai, actually, a podcast studio. They do numbers that I aspire to do.
Okay.
And they're like, dude, we've been to so many places, and he's like you have something. So like, it's nice to hear that. I'm like, okay, we already did something right.
Your place is awesome, man.
But I've been thinking, like, okay, what do I want to do? Like, we have this space. I want a podcast, but why do I want a podcast? Like, none of this is about like to like build a podcast. Like, one, it's for me to meet cool people and learn from them. Right. Like, I want to go back and rewatch these scenes, take my notes, and go, okay, in different seasons, I'm going to learn differently from these things. But I know that there's people out there like me, like you, that want to build something.
Yep.
That are building something, but they have these limiting self-beliefs. And I hope that those people find these episodes, that they can learn from you, learn from my inadequacies.
Well, I think that's great. I also think sometimes it can be therapeutic. It also, too, can hold you and me accountable to the people we want to become. Because when you tell the world, it's now an obligation. And we need more obligation. Like people think responsibility and obligation is a bad word. We need more of it, not less of it, because it keeps you from being distracted and being dumbed down to the worst part of you. So I think the more you do that and tell the world, and it holds all of us accountable. Also, I mean, you do have, like I said, you do have a beautiful space here. And the cool thing is like you're going to be able to attract people in this room, or the rooms that you have here, multiple here, that you as the owner are going to get access to people that you would have had to pay to have access to, right? And they're going to be paying you, which is even cooler. And here's the game I play in my head for martial arts schools. I do believe you're always one person, one conversation, one decision away from changing your life. And it's happened to me multiple times in my life. And I've had some great conversations with people, one-off sometimes, that have impacted and influenced my life in such a positive way. In the martial arts schools, I would always tell myself the reason why I want to get to a big platform is because in my mind, one of my martial arts programs, whether I'm the actual teacher or it's a school that I own and I'm teaching the teacher type thing, we're going to teach the person one day who becomes a resilient kid who learns how to overcome whatever comes their way. And that kid's going to go to medical school and they're going to find the cure to cancer one day. Or one day we're going to be teaching the kid that grows up one day, becomes president, and helps put our country in the right path. Like, whether it's true or not, in my mind, the game I was playing is we're going to impact the world so greatly that one of these people one day is going to change the world for the positive because they were able to become the person they were designed to be, and they needed that coach in their life. They needed that person to push them that little extra, and they needed the ability to protect themselves, not from just self-defense of a person attacking them, but from the world throwing the challenges, right? Because most kids don't know how to handle conflict. If I was you and I'm sitting in that seat and this is my spot at home, the game I would be playing in my head is one day someone's going to come rent your studio, you're going to pour into them, and they're going to grow their platform. They're going to be the next Joe Rogan. And look at Joe Rogan. He just impacted a presidential election, right? Like, you can't deny that he had power in that ability. People listen to him. He has influence beyond what he probably even could understand that he was going to have 10 years ago, 5 years ago. And so not only the financial impact, but you could be creating the next person who has a voice in our country or in the world nowadays, but obviously because it doesn't go anywhere, that can influence a business, a culture, an election. All right. And so that's the game I play in my head all the time is like, am I creating something that is bigger than money, bigger than a business, bigger, like I want to be a world changer, right? There's a lot of great things in this world, and we're going to continue to have problems and challenges, and we need resilient, strong, confident, competent warriors of the world. And I think the saying is, and I don't know if Bruce Lee was the one who he gets quoted for, but I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. All right. And so if you let that resonate a little bit, it's like, I'd rather be a person prepared for everything, but be in a time of peace, than to be a peaceful man in a time of war and don't know how to handle that. And that's really what I want my kids. I want my kids to have the skills to handle whatever, because the world's going to challenge them. Adversity strikes every man. It does. It's coming for you. So don't be surprised. Be prepared, And I think that you've got, man, first of all, you're a beautiful man. Like your heart, like, just like I said, you've been very easy to approach. You're here on a Sunday. You could be with your family. Like, your business is beautiful. Like, and as long as you're intentional with your goals and you set big, scary ones and you claim them to the world and you put people in your life that are going to hold you accountable to that, and you take care of your physical, your mental, your emotional, spiritual, it's impossible to fail. It's impossible to fail,
So to kind of wrap this up,
Yeah.
I think 2 last questions. One, over this process of building, scaling, selling, and now building a new business, what's like maybe the biggest takeaway you learned from scaling? Like, if you could give a message to somebody that has that dream,
Yeah.
and it's like, I learned this, that's what helped me achieve it. What would that be?
For quick context here, I had one location and was doing really well. Decided I wanted to get to 3 because I thought that was the next thing, and I was not good at that at all. And I checked my ego, sold 2 of those, got back to 1, and then went from 1 to 24. So in that process, and then to an exit, to a sell, I think the biggest thing, there's a laundry list of things, but the biggest thing that I would say that you have to acquire as a person, as a leader, entrepreneur, to be able to do that kind of stuff, is you have to, when I talk about resilience, you have to have the ability to have some emotional intelligence to make decisions quickly. You have to be able to make quick decisions and know that they're the right decisions and be committed. And so I tell people, and the way I tell people this is like, you have to be stubborn on your mission, but flexible on how you get there. And so you have to be stubborn that you don't veer from what you say you're going to go after. And so I had to, because you're going to be, when you try to scale, you're going to be challenged by so many things. And a lot of times they're good challenges, meaning like there's opportunities that come to you that you didn't expect to come to you. And it can very quickly steer you in the wrong course if you're not super stubborn about what you want to achieve with your business. Flexible on the path to get there, because what's going to happen is the way you think you're going to get there is not going to be the way you're going to get there. It wasn't for me. And everybody I've known that scaled a company to bigger than even what I've done, it's like it's gone differently than they thought it was going to go. And so you have to have the ability to make quick decisions and be very, your belief lid's got to be massively big. And so the biggest thing I would say is like, you have to reevaluate daily where you're going. It's really what you want to go after. Sell yourself from where you're going. Don't let other people sell you on it. Sell yourself every day and tell the world every day. Just keep doing that. And then what's going to happen is all these skills that you need to acquire to get there will make themselves available to you, or the people that you need, or the resources that you need will come to you. And I think what most people do is when they try to scale a business, they try to do things very, structurally, like they're trying to do everything right, trying to be perfect. You got to be flexible on how you're going to get there, because I'm telling you, it's not going to go the way you think. All right. Like I live in a different state that I did not know I was going to live in 2 months ago. I had no idea I was going to be here, It's getting me closer to my mission. So it's mission driven right now, but I'm flexible on my path to get there because I have to recognize, hey, the best opportunity actually wasn't where I was going to be. And that is not something I had at the beginning. In my mind, success was going to be very like, this is how it's going to work. And so that's a skill you got to acquire and have to learn. And the only way you do that is you got to be really, people say, they use the word thick skin. I say you got to be resilient to all the challenges that come to you, because you're going to be tested. And being a person of faith too, to add to that, the test, okay, your teacher during a test is the most silent. If you think about school time, teacher's teaching you. When they give you the test, everybody sit down, be quiet, take your test. God's going to be the quietest when you're being tested. And that one was hard for me to understand, because I'm like, in my hardest times in business, I felt God abandon me. I felt alone. It took me years of learning and understanding. I was like, oh, those moments were actually developing to be the man I can handle this problem over here. This problem that I thought was going to break me built me so I can handle this problem that seems like it's going to break me now. And God's most silent during those times. And it's not because you're being abandoned, it's because you're being tested. All right? And so like, it's very easy for me to explain it to like in the school sense, because if you think about it, your teacher's, on the board talking to you, and they give you, everybody sit down, pencils out. All right, everybody quiet. All right, you got 45 minutes. And the teacher says nothing. And you're sitting there in your head, you're processing, you're like, oh, what is going on? Stress. That's where growth happens. And without being tested, you don't know really what you're made of.
Well, and with that, without being tested, without the quiet, without the removal of help, the teacher doesn't know how to help you. The teacher doesn't know where you are in your journey.
You don't know if you learned anything. Yeah. 100%.
They don't know where you're struggling and how to better help you. And I think that's a really good lesson for people to learn and
It's hard
to take away. I've seen that in my life a few times. There's one part, I was divorced. I was single again. And all I care about is having a family, right? Because I need that purpose. That's my purpose.
I'm with you.
My kids, my wife, but I had no wife. I had a son, and obviously he was my purpose. But I'm like, all I want, and I remember there's a moment I got pretty depressed.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like sitting there, and I was just like, for like a month or two, just like, why does God not care?
Yeah.
Like, I'm a good person. I don't do bad things. I strive to be better every day. All I care about is having a family, which I think is a noble cause. Like,
amen. Yeah.
Why don't I have this?
Yeah.
And then there's one day I woke up and I was just like, that feeling kind of like lifted. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to quit being sad, quit whatever. And then that's the day I met my wife.
Isn't that crazy?
Well, what was crazy?
That's super crazy.
What was crazy is like, I met her, saw her like instantly I was like, I've never like double looked a woman in my life. And I was like,
Could take your eyes.
I was like, who is this? And I've never been scared to talk to anyone.
Yeah, okay.
And I was so like, I went to go talk to her, and I didn't even say hi to her. She was talking to my friend. I was like, oh, hey, what's up? Like, and then she introduced herself, and we hit it off. And I remember walking to my car that day after church, and I was like walking to the car, and I just had this impression in my head, and it was just like, see, you idiot, this is why.
Yeah.
Keep your head down, do what you're supposed to do, but this is why.
Yeah.
And looking back, I realized, and she's been such a blessing for my wife, for my life. She's been such a blessing for my son's life.
Right.
We ended up doing foster care. I would have never done that. We adopted through foster care. We've added to our family.
Amazing.
And it's opened so many paths. And she's made me a better person. I actually doubled after we started dating.
Yeah.
I doubled my revenue because I was like, I have to be more. She's way too hot.
Pressure.
She can have whoever she wants.
Right.
And I remember thinking about it like one day, I think after we were married, and looking back, and I was like, if I didn't get depressed, I had these other opportunities of girls, and I'm the type of person that I'm way too nice, and I would have just, and I feel too guilty that if we would have even kissed, I feel like I have to marry you now,
Yeah. I'm with you.
And I realized that like that rejection, that depression was really God's protection over me to put me in a place to keep me away from, because if I'm also the type of person, I'm incredibly loyal. Even if I'm not happy, I'm incredibly loyal. And I wouldn't have even spoken to my wife, You were
being prepared. Yeah.
Exactly. And those things happened to get me ready to meet her.
In the moment, you didn't know that, though, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. That's the hardest part, is because in revision, going back, like, you recognize that now. See, with my dad when I was younger, I thought my dad hated me when I was a kid. He was so hard on me, pushed me so hard. I was a perfect kid. I graduated high school at 15. Like, I didn't do anything wrong. My friends would do alcohol or drugs. I didn't touch anything. I was fearful of my dad, honestly, and I just wanted his approval. As an adult and as a father myself, my dad loved me and loves me. Like, I know, like, my dad, like, I know he's proud of me. In the moment, I didn't know that. So I thought my dad hated me. So I was always just trying to earn his affection, his love. And so I got good at karate just to get his affection and love. Now, maybe it was the wrong motivation, but when you're a kid, you don't know any different, And so, like, in the moment, I didn't know that. Looking back, and what I'm learning now is, like, I don't want to repeat that with my kid, and I have been doing that. I've not been the father I want to be. And you're talking about having a family. When I was 17 years old, I wrote down the top 50 things I want to do with my life. First one on there is be a father. And I was inspired because of how my dad was with me. And I hear about all the, the great moms out there, but you don't hear a lot of great fathers. We don't talk about fathers so much. But families that have a father in the home are more successful, right? Look, God made family to be a certain way. And I don't care what all the culture is about the world is now, like, I disagree with it. And I'm divorced, and we live in 2 different states now, and it's a challenge, and I'm not great at it. And I want to be a better father. And I've got a lot of, things I've done wrong in that. And so I'm really studying, like, things that happened to me as a kid, and, like, when did that maturity come? Like, why do I have to look back? During those tests, like you were talking about, during that depression, you don't know what you're being prepared for. And it's tough in that moment. And I think a lot of times that's what breaks people, is like they can't handle that part. And as a business owner, there's so many times where you're going to question. And now to the point where, like, if you don't question, like, why am I even doing this anymore? I just think most of the time, though, is we don't get enough help, guidance. And it's like, we don't, particularly men, we don't ask for help, and we don't want to seek it out. And then we do things based on cost. We have an event coming up, and people are like, I can't afford to be there. And it's part of selling people on the idea, but the reality is the truth, is people can't afford not to be there, because I know the ROI of not doing something is probably you're going out of business. And it's been true so many times. And it's just like, I have a success track to show people, this is what I did. $30,000 to take my team somewhere, and you're about $3,000. Every time I spend that $30,000, guess what happened? We'd come back and make $100, because everybody's learning, not just me. And I will tell you, talking about building a team, when your team sees you being built, but you don't invest in them, it's always an us versus them. You're the boss. You're not a leader, So like, I see myself as a mentor, a guide, a leader. Like, I want Cameron. I love Cameron. All right, I've helped raise that. He's a man now, married. Like, like when he has kids, I want to be their grandfather type thing. Cameron is family. And with that, though, I also know the obligation and responsibility is like, I'm his boss at times, his mentor at times. I want to be his friend. I want all of those relationships. And there's different times you wear those hats. And guess what? I hope I live long enough that, he repays that the other way around, because that's the circle of life, how it goes. My problem is I've built a couple of Camerons and not thousands of Camerons, and because I want Cameron to build thousands of people like him underneath him type thing. And I think as a business owner, it's just so tough sometimes to understand. It's like, if you're going to scale something, you're going to have all these things. And if you don't have resilience built in you, if you don't build that as a muscle, you're going to be tested and you're going to fail over and over again. And you're going to beat your head against the wall until you just quit. You'll just quit. You'll give up. You'll give up because you're chasing the wrong things and you're not really aware of where you want to go and who you want to become. So just build ability to see your future, know who you want to be as a person, as a company, and what's going to give you joy beyond just the calculated money you want to make. All right? Because money's actually the easiest part of the equation once you figure that out. It is. So.
Well, I appreciate the conversation today.
I love it, man. Absolutely.
The vulnerability and everything. Where can people find more information about you and what you're building?
AaronHensley.com. That's Aaron. That's from Keenan and Pill. They got that down. But Aaron Hensley, AaronHensley, has links to all the companies that I do and everything I have going on. It's probably the best way. Instagram is team_Hensley. But any of those spots, they can grab me there and go to YouTube from there and hit the company websites. And, my mission on earth, like I said, is to, particularly right now in the martial arts space, to help martial arts teachers and owners and operators learn how to do their business better so they can impact more kids in this world, do some big, crazy things together. And, I intend to lead as many people as possible to their best potential. That's my goal in life.
Awesome. Thank you, man.
All right. Hey, I appreciate the conversation. That was great. That was good. It was good.